So here's a wild thought. What if I told you that in 20 years, one guy is going to control whether you can access the internet, how you get to work, who builds your house, how you get to space, what information you see, and potentially how your brain interfaces with machines? Sounds like a sci-fi movie, right? Except it's not. It's just Elon Musk's actual business strategy. And the scary part isn't that it sounds crazy, it's that it's already happening. Everyone sees the Twitter drama or the Cybertruck memes and thinks this is just some eccentric billionaire doing random stuff, but that's the misdirection. While everyone's laughing at his tweets or arguing about whether he's a genius or a con man, he's quietly positioning himself to own every critical system that keeps human civilization running. Not through force, not through politics, just through being the only guy who builds the infrastructure we'll all need to survive. And here's the thing nobody's really grasping. He's not building competing companies. He's building one integrated empire disguised as separate businesses. It's like watching someone play chess while everyone else is playing checkers. By the time people realize what happened, the game's already over. Think about it this way. Right now, if you want internet in the middle of the ocean, you need Starlink. If you want an electric car that actually works at scale, you probably get a Tesla. If you want to launch something to space affordably, you call SpaceX. There's no real alternative in any of these sectors that operates at the same level. And that's not an accident, that's strategy. The genius isn't in making good products. The genius is in identifying which systems humanity literally cannot function without in 20 years, then becoming the only person who controls all of them at once. This is Black Ledger, where we break down power plays and strategy using logic instead of whatever hype is trending. Quick disclaimer. This is analysis and education, not predictions or advice. I'm not saying this will definitely happen. I'm saying if you follow the pattern, this is where it leads. Draw your own conclusions. I'm just connecting the dots. So let's go back a bit. Early 2000s, Musk sells PayPal, walks away with his fortune, and here's where most people would buy an island and retire. Instead, he looks at the future and asks a simple question. What will humans need most in 50 years? And his answer is, we need to not be stuck on one planet. We need clean transportation, we need global communication, and we need to solve labor shortages through automation. So he doesn't just invest in these ideas, he builds companies designed to monopolize them. Tesla for transportation and energy, SpaceX for space access, then later, Starlink for global internet, Neuralink for human enhancement, Optimus robots for automation, and he buys Twitter, now X, to control the conversation about all of it. Here's what makes this brilliant. Every other billionaire is trying to get richer. Musk is trying to become infrastructure. There's a massive difference. You can compete with a rich guy. You can't compete with the only water company in town. And that's exactly what he's building, except the town is Earth and soon space. Okay, here's where it gets interesting. Let's break down the actual strategy, because this isn't about luck or just being smart. This is systematic empire building. Phase 1. Identify the choke points. Musk didn't randomly pick industries. He picked the sectors where whoever wins becomes irreplaceable. Internet access? Once everyone's connected to your satellites, switching costs are massive. Transportation? Once cities build around autonomous vehicles, you can't just swap the system. Space launch capability? Once you're the only one who can get to orbit affordably, every government and company depends on you. Automation? Once robots do most labor, whoever makes the robots controls the economy. These aren't markets, these are foundations of civilization, and he's targeting all of them at once. Phase 2. Build faster than anyone can catch up. Here's the thing about Musk that people don't appreciate. He moves at a speed that makes competition impossible. While traditional aerospace companies spend 10 years designing a rocket, SpaceX is already launching the next generation. While car manufacturers debate electric vehicles, Tesla's already on the third iteration of their production line. Speed isn't just about being first. It's about being so far ahead that by the time competitors start, you've already locked in the infrastructure, the talent, the supply chains, and the customer base. It's not a race if you're the only one at the finish line. Phase 3. Make everything interconnected. This is where it gets scary smart. Tesla makes electric cars, but those cars need internet, Starlink. SpaceX launches satellites, but manufacturing rockets at scale needs automation, Optimus robots. Starlink provides global communication, but controlling the narrative about all of this requires a platform. X. Neuralink creates brain interfaces that might eventually control the cars, the robots, everything. You're not building separate companies. You're building an ecosystem where each piece makes the others impossible to replace. It's like owning the power company, the water company, and the roads. Sure, someone could compete with one of them, but all three at once? That's a monopoly that regulates itself. Phase 4. Expand beyond Earth. And here's the final move, the one people aren't even thinking about yet: space. Musk isn't just launching satellites, he's positioning to literally own the infrastructure of human expansion beyond Earth. Think about what happens when SpaceX establishes the first permanent moon base, probably sometime in the next 5 to 7 years. Every structure, every supply run, every communication relay, that's his infrastructure. Then Mars, the first colonies, the first habitats, the first transportation networks between planets. He's not participating in space exploration. He's becoming space exploration. And here's the kicker. There's no competitor even close. Blue Origin is trying, but they're a decade behind on reusable rockets. NASA's dependent on SpaceX for their own missions. China's space program is impressive, but it's government-run, slower, and focused on national prestige rather than commercial infrastructure. Musk looked at space and said, "This is the ultimate monopoly because I'll be the only game in town for an entire new world." And he's right. Now let's paint the picture of what this actually looks like in 20 years if this trajectory continues. Your morning in 2045. You wake up in a house built partially by Optimus robots. They're cheaper than human construction workers, and they work 24/7. Your Tesla picks you up, fully autonomous, part of a transportation network where you don't own a car. You just subscribe to mobility. The car's connected to Starlink because that's the only internet that works reliably everywhere, from cities to rural areas to moving vehicles. At work, half your coworkers are humanoid robots, Optimus units that do the repetitive tasks, the dangerous tasks, the tasks humans don't want. They're maintained by other robots. They're built in factories run by robots. The human workers left are mostly supervisors or specialists doing what AI can't do yet. You scroll X during lunch because it's where all the news breaks, where all the companies advertise, where all the conversations happen. Alternative platforms exist, but they're small. X has the network effect locked in. Your evening, you're watching a live stream from the Mars colony. 50,000 people live there now, all of them dependent on SpaceX for supplies, Tesla tech for ground transport, Starlink for communication with Earth, and Optimus robots for construction and maintenance. The first Mars-born generation is growing up in habitats that have Musk's name on every critical system. Someone you know is getting a Neuralink implant to treat a neurological condition. It's FDA approved, covered by insurance, and honestly seems normal now. They'll be able to control their smart home, their car, maybe even interface with their work computer just by thinking. And here's the thing. None of this feels dystopian in the moment. It feels convenient. It feels advanced. It feels like progress. Because it is progress. It's just progress that roots through one person's empire. You don't feel owned. You just don't have alternatives anymore. Let's talk about space specifically because this is where the monopoly becomes permanent. Right now, Earth-based monopolies can be broken up. Governments can regulate, competitors can emerge, public backlash can force change. But space? Space is different. Space is a frontier where the first mover advantage is basically insurmountable. If Musk establishes the first self-sustaining Mars colony, that colony depends entirely on his infrastructure for survival. You can't boycott the only company that brings you water, oxygen, food, and equipment. You can't regulate a company when you're living in their habitat on another planet. You can't choose a competitor when there isn't one because the investment required to catch up is astronomical, literally. The moon base comes first, probably around 2030. That's the proof of concept. Permanent human presence, mining operations for resources, maybe even manufacturing using lunar materials. Every SpaceX Starship that lands is delivering the building blocks of off-world civilization. And every building block is proprietary. Then Mars, around 2035 to 2040. The first 100 people, then 1,000, then 10,000. Each wave dependent on the previous infrastructure. Each habitat expanding the network, and all of it. Every launch, every habitat module, every communication relay, every rover, funneling through Musk's companies. By 2045, you're looking at a genuine off-world economy, and it's not governed by NASA or the UN or any democratic institution. It's governed by the reality of who controls the supply chain. And that's SpaceX, that's Starlink, That's Tesla technology adapted for alien environments. That's Optimus robots building in low gravity. It's not a government, it's not a nation, it's a corporate infrastructure that becomes the de facto authority because nothing else exists at that scale. And Earth governments can't stop it, because Earth governments need the same systems. They need Starlink for military communication. They need SpaceX for satellite launches. They need the technology that only these companies have developed. You don't conquer space. You just become the only one who knows how to live there. And then you own it by default. So what does this mean right now? Watch what happens in the next 3 to 5 years. If Starlink becomes the default internet in rural areas and developing nations, that's the network effect locking in. If Tesla achieves unsupervised self-driving and launches robotaxi networks, that's transportation infrastructure becoming proprietary. If Optimus robots actually ship to commercial customers and prove useful, that's the beginning of the automation takeover. And most importantly, watch SpaceX. If Starship achieves regular orbital refueling and begins moon missions, that's the moment space colonization becomes real. And whoever establishes that first foothold owns the future beyond Earth. These aren't distant possibilities. These are things happening in the next few years. The decisions being made right now determine whether this monopoly becomes reality or gets disrupted before it's too late. Here's how to think about what's happening. Real power isn't about money. It's not about fame. It's not even about influence. Real power is about being irreplaceable. It's about controlling systems that society cannot function without. Musk figured this out early. He didn't try to get rich. He tried to become infrastructure. And he chose infrastructure that has no substitute. Internet access everywhere, transportation, automation, space access, information flow. The genius is in the integration. Each system reinforces the others until you can't remove one without collapsing the whole thing. It's not 6 companies. It's one empire with 6 faces. And the truly terrifying part? It's not happening through force or deception. It's happening because he's actually solving problems. He's providing services people want. He's advancing technology. He's making life better in measurable ways. That's how you conquer the world in the 21st century. You don't invade. You don't coerce. You just become the only system that works. And then you wait for everyone to realize they can't live without you. 20 years from now, when you're using Starlink because it's the only internet that covers your area, riding in a Tesla because autonomous vehicles replaced car ownership, working alongside Optimus robots because human labor became too expensive, watching SpaceX launch the next wave of Mars colonists, and scrolling X because that's where everyone is. You won't feel conquered. You'll just wonder how it ever worked any other way. That's not ownership through domination. That's ownership through irreplaceability. And that's what the ledger shows. The future doesn't belong to whoever has the most money or the biggest army. It belongs to whoever builds the systems that everyone else depends on to survive. And right now, that's one guy with a plan that's already halfway complete. You don't rule the world by taking it. You rule it by becoming the only thing holding it together.